So the first deal, just get started. Even if you break even, just figure out the mechanic. There's no amount of courses. There's nothing that Chris or I can tell you that is going to cover all the details of title and all the nuances of getting contracts back and forth and hiring contractors. You just got to do it.
Oh, it literally made the hair on my arm stand up when you said hire contractors. Oh God.
Yeah, it's hard.
Worst.
It's the hardest part in this business. So managing tenants can be hard. It's not that hard to buy properties once you learn how to do it, but managing contractors is a forever business. If you're in this business, you'll never perfect it, because it's just, I don't know, with the nature of the beast, those laborers that are of that caliber, the good ones will overprice themselves and move on and start their own companies and do their own flips. And you're constantly having to replace them, and you're all constantly having to keep your thumb on them. So there could be a whole podcast, I think there could be there probably is an entire podcast just on the science of managing contractors who do flips.
Or not managing them, because it's like managing an untamed wildebeest that you just can't. You never bring that into your house and like try to like domesticate a wild wildebeest. I mean, that's a contractor. You can't do it. So stop trying. Just develop a system, almost like a flowing river, where you just move them through the river and new ones appear. You test them out,
like herding cats. It just can't be done.
There you go.
Yeah. So the lessons are to, if you find yourself in the beginning stage, to just get started. Once you get started, you start to build confidence, and then probably like me and most everybody else, you get too confident and you start shortcutting your due diligence processes. And I'm curious if you did this.
I thought I was the only one. Just saying. You
have to have checklists. I mean, if pilots will do checklists, then why can't you? I mean, are you better than pilots? There's a reason that it's funny about airplanes. If 1% of them crash, none of us would fly. That's how reliable the airline industry is. And if you just look at how they do things, the reason they're successful is because they have crazy amounts of checklists and double checks, and they go to the nth degree to make sure that their business is viable. We don't have to go maybe to that extreme, but we can take some cues from that business to make sure, like I never buy a house now without my wife going and seeing it as well. Like I see it separately, I go and do it. And then just this week, I drove by a house. I said, "Hey, that's a house we're about to buy on a flip." And she said, "What, that house?" It's like, "Yeah, what's wrong with it?" She said, "We're not buying that house." Like, "You haven't even seen it. What's wrong?" She said, "It's on a major street and there's 2 houses vacant next to it." I kind of looked and I was like, "Oh, you're right. That's just going to be a big headache, isn't it? Okay, we're not buying that house." And I totally overlooked that because, I don't know, I wanted it in the next project. So it's very nice to have a business partner, a realtor, somebody that you is trusted. In this case, is my wife, that will come in behind you and say, "Okay, let me just run this past you," and just kind of go through. It's like basically you need a loan committee, just like when you go get a bank, they send it up through the committee. You need to build your own committee to make smart decisions, and don't make decisions about buying investments in a vacuum, because you just lose connection with things and you don't know when you're doing it. I mean, like you're just a flawed person. Like, for example, we all heard that Kobe Bryant was killed in the last few months, and what the data is showing now, they don't know for sure, it was pilot error. Most likely it was pilot error. There's no indication that there was any kind of mechanical failure. He was extremely successful, but he was in a situation where he thought he was going up when he was actually going down, most likely, and he didn't have anybody else there to check against. We need to create a situation in our lives where we're not going up when we think we're going down.